From introduced us to quite a few entities, some evil, some not so much. But out of all the entities, I think the most heart-wrenching ones have to be the Anghkooey kids, commonly known as the ghoulish kids. Seeing ghostly children in a horror movie or a show is always a bit of a toss between them being completely evil or having a sad story. As you may have guessed, these children are far more heartbreaking than we initially thought. After all, Victor's memories of that night in the church basement gave us some clues about what might have gone down with these children. But now the question is, how did the murder of children play a role in the town? That is what we are going to look at in this video. If you are curious, I suggest you keep watching. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. The story told to Christopher. Victor was pretty sure that Jasper was the one who told Christopher a story about this town 40 years ago. However, as we soon found out, Victor's memory was playing tricks on him. The one he saw telling Christopher stories about the town was not Jasper the dummy, but the boy in white. The boy in white told Christopher that these children were born in the darkness, and they were eventually murdered in the darkness. The ones who gave them this fate were none other than their own loved ones. However, one of their loved ones decided to stay back and tell the kids a story. As they lay on the sacrificial slabs, the story gave them hope, and the children poured all their hope into the symbol that the root systems in the cave opening created, right above them on the ceiling. The roots they saw created the faraway tree. The boy in white wanted Christopher to step inside the faraway tree to go save the children. However, Christopher did not believe him. Victor heard the entire thing, and when Christopher refused, Victor went back to his mother and told her the story. Miranda then left Victor and Eloise in the root cellar, the one hiding place Christopher knew nothing about, and went to save the children. A few things about this whole incident and the story that got me thinking. Firstly, I can definitely see why Victor forgot about the whole incident and kind of actively chose not to remember it by not drawing any pictures. Victor has always made it abundantly clear that he painted his pictures because they helped him remember. However, this is a pretty important incident. Victor himself knew the gravity of the story and the situation. Otherwise, why would he go to Miranda and tell her about that? Also, this was the first time Victor saw the boy in white. Up until now, we heard that Victor first saw the boy in white when he came out of the cellar and was all alone in the town, being the sole survivor of the massacre. But now we know that Victor saw the boy in white speaking with Christopher the night before about something super important, which Victor felt he had to tell his mother. Of course, we know the aftermath of this entire thing. Victor's mother and sister get killed. Everyone in the town gets killed. Victor, a mere 10-year-old boy, is left alone to deal with everything. Overall, it is not the best kind of environment to survive in. I think Victor was overwhelmed with the grief of this whole situation, and that is why he never painted pictures. Maybe somewhere deep down, he always felt like Jasper was a bit creepy, even though Christopher would use Jasper to make them laugh. That is why, in Victor's altered memory, Jasper is the one speaking with Christopher, and not the boy in white who, since then, has been a good friend to Victor. Secondly, the fact that it is Christopher who the boy in white approached, and not Miranda, is important. Up until now, since Miranda got the visions and told Henry about her hallucinations, which confirmed the existence of chosen ones, we kind of assumed that she was the main one the children selected. But the boy in white seems to be the guardian angel of the ghoulish kids. So, if Miranda was the main player, the main chosen one, I think he would have approached her first. Since Christopher started seeing the symbol, the boy in white probably thought he would be the best person to go for. He is already seeing a random symbol pop out of nowhere. The chances of him believing in the boy in white and not freaking out are higher, or at least that is what it should be. But then that encounter did not go well, and that's when Miranda selflessly jumped into the mix to save the kids that she had dreams about. Maybe she did not know how to save the kids, and now that she bravely laid down her life for them, the boy in white decided to stay with Victor and protect him. I doubt that without the boy in white's help, Victor would have survived for as long as he had in the town all by himself. Thirdly, the story that the boy in white tells Christopher is quite heartbreaking, but I am sure everyone, including Miranda, must have wondered how the kids and their suffering are related to the town and the monstrous creatures we see here. Well, for that, we have a theory. The ghoulish kids and their connection with the town explained. When the ghoulish kids were first introduced in the series, it was evident that they were victims of a ritualistic sacrifice. Although at first glance, it seemed like they were pale because they were dead. Now it feels like the kids became pale because they were not exposed to the sun for a long time. I do not think these kids were dragged into the sacrificial chamber and instantly killed. I believe that they were left in the dark, forced to get accustomed to it, while having nothing to do except stare at the ceiling, the hole through which they could see the sky with the 3 roots crisscrossing. We have seen the roots grow or at least change in shape or direction in Jade's visuals. I believe these children were forced to stay alive for just that long and watch their roots grow. If this is true, then this sounds a lot like the plot of The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas by Ursula K. Le Guin. In her story, the author described this amazing place with forever happiness. The harvest is bountiful. Everyone there is always happy and healthy. The scholars are wise, and the makers are skilled. Life in Omelas is perfect in every way, shape, or form you can possibly imagine. When the kids of this town reach an age between 8 and 12, they are brought to one of the private rooms in the brightly lit houses you see in the city. This private room is no more than 3 paces long. Calling it a room would be being too kind. Truthfully, it is more like an unused shed with a few stiff, smelly mops and a rusty old bucket. In that room there lives a child. Could be a boy or a girl, who may look 6 but is actually 10. This child has to be kept in this dark, grimy room with no one cleaning them or feeding them properly. This child was once free, roaming the streets of Omelas, happily walking hand in hand with their mother. Then one day, they were thrown into this dark room and left there. All the happiness in Omelas comes in exchange of the abominable suffering and cruelty that this child has to go through on a daily basis. When the children see this child, at first they get angry and upset. They consider saving the child, for that would be the nice thing to do. However, as days turn, these children accept the injustice of this whole situation as the reality. They make reasons to themselves why saving the child would not help, for the child is now feeble-minded and could possibly not live a normal life. While the majority of the people in Omelas end up accepting the dilemma, the absolute choice given to them for their own good, some people refuse. They reject the boons of the Omelas by simply walking away. If you have not read this story, I definitely suggest you do. It is a beautiful read. Now that you know the gist of the story, do you see what I mean? The suffering of children boosting up the town or entity at play and forcing the loved ones of the children to turn a blind eye to their suffering. Because of this story, I believe that a long time ago, Fromville was a town just like any other. Maybe the people in this town were a bit more knowledge hungry than the others. Perhaps one of them ended up finding some book, or maybe the entity at play introduced itself to the townsfolk with an offer none of them could reject. I think the entity promised the townsfolk youth or beauty or something shallow like that for the rest of their lives. The townsfolk believed them and agreed to the deal. To uphold their end of the bargain, the townsfolk forcibly took the children of the town and brought them to the sacrificial chamber. The more the children suffered, the more the townsfolk benefited. Maybe the children were alive in that locked tower for months before their bodies eventually withered away. Either way, I do not think that they had a peaceful death. I feel like maybe that is when either some younger members of the town or some parent whose child was forcibly taken from them decide to visit the tower. They see the condition of the children and they feel bad. They tell the children a story and that gives them hope. This hope leads to the faraway tree being formed, but also feeds the evil side of the entity, because we have heard this over and over again, that the entity feeds on hope. These parents or young members, whoever told the children a story, decided to leave the town the moment they saw the reality. Right after they left, the evil entity took over the town and twisted the people living there and turned them into monsters. I say this because the creatures we see in the town look like they are frozen in time, youthful, albeit a bit pasty. I think the town keeps trapping people in the hopes of getting more children to sacrifice, so that the original townsfolk, who are now monsters, can get rejuvenated. Or maybe the whole deal was just a test, and when the townsfolk admitted to sacrificing children for something vain, they failed the said test. While the children were not saved, the entity testing them decided to punish the people by turning them into bloodthirsty monsters. I think these creatures kill humans hoping that would satiate them, but really, they are incapable of eating as a punishment for their greed. Marvelous verdict. It sure seems like Fromville is, at least in spirit, a version of Omelas. It's similar to the way the bargain works, that is, the town people having their desires granted in exchange for the suffering of the poor children. Now, could there be more nuance to how it actually turns out in the show? I think so. And if you do too, let us know in the comments below, and I'll see you all the next time. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one, and be safe. Thanks, everyone.